Hi there, I'm Simon Catchin, and this is my review of Osiren's Tears by Crissy. So this is a very difficult book for me to review, to be honest, because I'm a huge fan of Crissy work, and she's an extremely good writer. Out of the independent authors I've read, there's her and Garrett Robinson that I think are really, really good. And there's plenty of other people who are good, it's just that I think they're the best. So, A Siren's Tears is kind of a difficult one for me because it's a political drama, I guess you'd say. It's set in a fantasy world where there's three fantasy races, and they've been created by a god called Osiren, and Osiren appears in the actual books as an actual character. And there's a war brewing between the Maenads, who are the water-dwelling creatures, and the Trolls, who are the rock, mountain-dwelling creatures. And Osiren is trying to negotiate peace between the two of them. So the book is the negotiations. There's a very short bit of action in it, but not very much. Most of it is discussions on council meetings and with leaders and things like that. So for me, that's kind of a difficult sell. It's not really my kind of book to read. I've certainly watched that kind of stuff on TV before that's been very good, like House of Cards, for instance, on Netflix and things like that. But it's a very difficult thing to pull off because it really requires a lot of intellect and being 3 steps ahead and that kind of thing. Like Game of Thrones has a lot of political stuff in it that's very good. And you're going, oh yeah, I saw how that guy had thought that guy and stuff like that. And that's not quite on that. This book isn't quite on that level. So the issue I have is that the book is incredibly well written. I'm really a fan of Crissy's writing. Especially, she used to have a weakness where her stuff wasn't copy edited, so there was a lot of spelling errors and stuff like that, and she's fixed that. I spotted a few small spelling errors, but nothing major. The only peeve for me was dripping, which I've noticed people, independent authors, using over and over and over now. The chest was dripping with jewels. The forest was dripping with snow. His voice was dripping with sarcasm. Her hands were dripping with gold rings. All this stuff. Stop using dripping would be my point. But that's a minor thing. It's just my pet peeve. But it's incredibly well written. Like really, really engaging writing. It's just that the story, without any action, pretty much, there's tiny bit of action, as I say, and with pretty much only political maneuvering that isn't very complicated. It just didn't have enough to really grip me. So I read it the whole way through, which most books I would give up on. It's just because it was Crissy's that I read it the whole way through. But it, like, I was thinking whilst I was reading it that it was kind of like a world doc, world encyclopedia that an author would create, where you fill in the backstory for your world and then you start the story for real. Or in another sense, I thought of the Star Wars prequels. So for the original Star Wars movies, there was lots of backstory where they went, oh, there was this trade federation, there was this war, and there was stormtroopers and clones and so on. And that was all kind of interesting backstory, and then they actually showed it in the prequels and everyone went, no, actually it's quite boring. And that's kind of where I landed on this in the end. So by the end of the book I was kind of skimming a bit. So overall I give the book 2 stars out of 5, which is 3 out of 5 on Amazon, which means that it was okay. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't anything that I particularly liked either. It's not going to put me off reading other stuff that Crissy's written. It's just I would prefer to kind of read Crissy's stuff that's more actiony, that more stuff is going on, and maybe less scope, I guess. that if it was between personal characters, there's more to care about. Whereas if it's the maneuverings of councilmen and things like that that you've barely met, it's kind of difficult to care who does what to who. So yeah, that's Osiren's Tears by Crissy, which I give 2 out of 5. Thanks very much for watching.